check.
This is Molly.
Check.
Okay. Thank you all for being here this morning. Let's call to order the meeting of the House Committee on Legislative and Congressional Reapportionment. We have committee members who are attending here in the CLOB, and we also have committee members who are attending via Zoom. Thank you all. In addition to that, we have quite a few members of the public who have signed up to speak to this proposed map via Zoom. And I'm glad to have you here. I am going to be calling you in the order in which you have signed up. And so that we are able to manage the time for everyone to speak, we have just closed the speaker sign up. I believe we have 29 people who have signed up to speak. Following the conclusion of the public testimony, we are going to ask the members of the public who have joined us via Zoom to exit the Zoom call so that we can take up the official committee business with committee members only on the Zoom call. The meeting will continue to be live streamed as are all of our committee meetings. And members of the public are, of course, invited and welcome to continue viewing the remainder of the meeting via the publicly available live stream, which can be found on the House website at house.ga.gov. So we are going to start this meeting with the public commentary. And at the conclusion of that, we are going to take up the official committee business with respect to proposed Senate Bill 2EX. I'm going to ask that the members of the public who are speaking to this measure limit their comments to 3 minutes, and we will get started with that process now. The first person who has signed up is Alex Ames, AMES. That person will be followed by Mira Sidal. Okay, Alex Ames, we do not see you on the Zoom call. I will come back to you in the event that you're able to join us later. So first up to speak will be Mira Sidal, SYDOW. Okay, I'm told Mira is not on the call, on the Zoom call, so we'll come back to you. Third on the sign-up list is Katie Gates, GATES. And I am told you are not on the call either. All right, it's a little deja vu to our first virtual public hearing, isn't it? Number 4 on the list is Lisa Campbell, and you are on the Zoom call. So thank you so much, Ms. Campbell, for being here with us early on a Saturday morning. I believe that if you will just unmute your microphone, then you will be available to speak to the committee.
Good morning. Good morning, honorable chairs and members of the Georgia House Legislative and Congressional Reapportionment Committee. My name is Lisa Campbell, and I've lived the majority of my 53 years as a resident of Georgia, and I've been involved in this redistricting process from the very first virtual town hall. Today, I come to hold you accountable for making good on the mission of a free, fair, and transparent redistricting process. Today, I'm here to protest the proposed congressional map that unfairly splits Cobb County into 4 districts. My family has lived in Cobb County since the 1940s. And during this time, Cobb County has grown from a population of 38,000 to more than 768,000. And not only has our community grown in size and in economic terms, but even more meaningfully, we have also seen a significant increase in the diversity of our population. I'm proud to share that in 2020, Cobb Countyans elected an all-female board of commissioners with 3 women of color and a Black woman, Lisa Cupid, as the chair for the very first time. We also overwhelmingly voted for the Democratic president, with 56% of the vote going to the Biden-Harris ticket. A lead story of the 2020 census results is the increasing diversity of Cobb County. Demographic data shows that in Cobb, non-Hispanic whites constitute a plurality, but not a majority. White Cobb Countyans who are not Hispanic or Latino make up just 48% of the population. The proportion of Cobb Countyans who are Black Asian, Hispanic, or two or more races all increased. So while Cobb County has expanded greatly in diversity, the congressional maps you've presented have split Cobb into 4 districts. This is cracking to the highest degree, a blatant effort to ignore the vibrant growth and diversity in Cobb County, and an attempt to divide and diminish our choices, our voices, and our votes. What you're doing with the proposed congressional map for Cobb, the 3rd largest county in Georgia, is rigging the system. What you're doing is discriminatory, an effort to structure the lines so that they align with your partisan politics, a cowardly attempt to stifle the change in our multicultural county. The better answer for fair representation would be to create a congressional district for Cobb that follows the county lines. Cobb meets the population requirements for a congressional district and includes many communities of interest. As members of this committee, you have the legislative power to make better redistricting decisions. But if you refuse, ultimately, it is the people who have the power to create a better democracy. And we, the people, we will not concede to your gerrymandering. We will not stop voicing our concerns about discrimination. We won't lower our standards for fairness, and we will not let democracy be manipulated. Instead, we will persist for competitive choices, and we will continue standing as allies with locked arms, knocking on your door, and voting to ensure that lines are drawn with diverse input and inclusive of fair representation. And thank you for listening today.
Thank you very much, Ms. Campbell, for your comments. I do not see any questions from the committee. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Next on the list of signups, we have Phyllis Preston, who will be followed by Anthony Whaley. Phyllis Preston, I am told you are not on the Zoom, so we will come back to you. Next is Anthony Whaley, who is on the Zoom call. So Mr. Whaley, you may proceed.
Good morning. My name is Anthony Whaley. I'm a resident of Powder Springs, Georgia, which is part of Georgia's 11th U.S. Congressional District. With news that Powder Springs and Austell, 2 solidly blue voting areas in the last 2 election cycles, might be moved over to Georgia's 14th U.S. Congressional District, my jaw literally dropped. Ever since Marjorie Taylor Greene became the 14th district's congressperson, my family and like-minded friends would often say that we dodged a bullet in not living in neighboring Paulding County. Now, while my representative in Congress, Representative Barry Loudermilk, is not someone who I agree with, he's at least someone who I and other residents have had a choice in selecting. Representative Loudermilk may not be my choice to fill the seat of the 11th district, but he's still someone who I communicate with and can trust to be a level-headed and reasonable representative. With word that the 14th district is set to possibly expand over into Powder Springs and Austell, the prospect of being represented by Marjorie Taylor Greene is upsetting because of what she stands for ideologically and morally. I think an analogy I would use is in the case of Marjorie Taylor Greene's district taking over part of West Cobb is akin to a shotgun wedding or an abusive relative moving into my house because they have no place to go to. I don't want them in my house, but I'm still going to have to deal with them while they're here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Whaley. I do not see any questions from the committee, so thank you very much for being here this morning. Next on the list, we have Deborah Johnson, who will be followed by Carolina Mock. And Ms. Johnson, I understand you were on the call, so you may proceed. Ms. Johnson, if you will unmute yourself and then start over. I do that.
I do apologize. I do apologize. First, let me thank you all for the opportunity to speak with the Congressional Reappointment Committee. I want to take this time to thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of my family. I am not an expert in the matter, but I do know all aspects of this process do matter, which is why I set aside my fear of speaking out to you today. My name is Deborah Johnson, and I am a 21-year stakeholder in the South Cobb area, residing in Austell. I am very engaged in my community, from organizing postcard parties, written to legislation, asking for fair redistricting, to the poll as a poll worker, to the pavement of our streets, helping to keep our people on their feet and concerned for the future of the children, including my very own 10 grandchildren who use the public system for education. As I recall, Marjorie Taylor being faced with calls to resign back in 2018 from the survivors who survived the Portland security after she agreed with media to call the matter false flags. I just cannot come to grips to understand Marjorie would be a good best fit for much of minority Black and Brown citizens in Cobb County. Austell and Powder Springs particularly. She has no empathy for humanity and no sympathy for the dead or the living. I believe Marjorie would take us back to hopeless days, as we are simply not willing to go backwards after moving forward. I would like someone who truly listened to our community, suppressing jobs, building economics, and care how the impact of our beloved community is shaped. Many constituents that have spoke before me, like Ms. Cable, already feel that we are the least of concerns when it comes to housing, livable wages, education, healthcare coverage, inclusiveness, and racism, just to name a few of the adversity challenge we are facing today in the South Cobb area. As several of my neighbors and representation here in Austell has already expressed during your sessions at the Capitol and made mention, we simply want a leader who leads with justice for all in mind. Let's make a pledge to the United States of America and to the republic in which it stands, and not to the Republicans who wish to make a stand against the most vulnerable population here in South Cobb area. Be fair, be just, and be accountable to the people we all pledge allegiance to. Thank you for your attention and considering what or who holds Austell and Powder Springs' best interests at heart. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Johnson. I do not see any questions from the committee. Thank you for being here this morning. Next on the list, we have Carolina Mock. And I am told she is not on the Zoom call, so we will come back to you at the end. Number 9 on the list is Juliet Hartel, Hartel. Ms. Hartel, I understand that you are on the line.
Hi, yes. Good morning. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I wanted to speak about the 6th and 7th districts that you have redrawn, and in a state that is basically 50-50, and you've only created 14 competitive seats for Congress, and that is unacceptable. The 6th, I have been represented by Lucy McBath, and she's done an honorable job representing the interests of people of Georgia, as well as the people in the 6th district, by moving her district up into a dominated GOP instead of a competitive seat where it is currently is unacceptable. Is also is moving Bordeaux's district to make it strictly Democratic instead of the more competitive seat that it is now. That is not fair. That does not represent truly the voters in Georgia. And I think it's inexcusable and reprehensible for you to do things like that. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hartel. I do not see any questions from the committee. Thank you for being here. Next on the list, we have Harold Kurtz, and I am told he is not on the Zoom call. Karen McCowan, I bet you are Ms. McCowan. Okay, you may proceed.
Whoops. Okay, yes, I am. Thank you very much. Good morning. My name is Karen McCowan, and I am the co-chair of the Mapping and Analysis Committee for Fair Districts, Georgia. Thank you for the opportunity to address the committee today about the proposed congressional map under consideration. We at FDGA do not believe that this map accurately reflects the political preferences of Georgia's voters and the narrowing partisan gap between Republicans and Democrats. Other speakers have described specific aspects of the map in detail, including the way the 6th district has been redesigned to potentially alter the existing partisan balance of the congressional delegation from 8 Republicans and 6 Democrats to a 9-5 split. If voting trends of the past decade continue, the reconfigured 6th district could allow Republicans to hold 64% of Georgia's congressional seats with under 50% of the statewide vote. To better understand the relationship between vote share and seat share, FDGA analyzed 20 years of statewide election results downloaded from the Secretary of State's website. While the partisan distribution of voters in the state makes strict proportional representation unlikely, at the very least, vote share should follow seat share, more votes yielding more seats and fewer votes yielding fewer seats. We have seen a pattern of diverging vote share and seat share in decennial redistricting cycles of the past. Between 2000 and 2002, Republicans gained 5.6% of the statewide vote. However, after Democrats drew maps in 2001, Republicans gained no additional seats in Congress or the State House, and only 2 additional seats in the state Senate. Likewise, between 2010 and 2012, Republicans lost 2.4% of the statewide vote, but still gained 1 additional congressional seat, 3 state Senate seats, and 11 state House seats, which were supermajorities in the House and Senate. Since 2010, Republican statewide vote share has declined from 55.7% to 49.2% in the 2000 election, or the 2020 election, and Democrats have gained 2 congressional seats. The proposed congressional map appears to be gerrymandered to partially reverse those gains and yield a diverging vote share versus seat share like we saw in 2001 and 2010. We encourage you to adjust the proposed map to yield a more even partisan balance, and including the redesign of the 6th district to be more competitive. Thank you for this opportunity to present today, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Ms. McCowan. I don't see any questions, so thank you very much. I wanted to make an announcement with respect to the Zoom link. I understand that some people have contacted the minority party's office indicating that they have not received the Zoom link. We have sent emails to all of the addresses that were provided. We have not received any bounce backs, and we have received red receipts, READ. So if you are one of the people who has not seen the Zoom link, please check your spam and junk folders. And if you still do not see it, then please call the number that you had called before and request another email address perhaps so that we can get that Zoom link to you. Okay, moving on, we have Andrea Espinosa. And I understand that Andrea is not on the Zoom call. Following Andrea, we have Scotty Crow. And Scotty Crow, I am told, is also not on the call. We have Mike Levin. Mike Levin is next on the list. And I do not see Mr. Levin on the Zoom call either. Number 15 is James Sams, S-A-M-S. And Mr. Sams is also not on the call. Number 16 is Arwin Hassan, H-A-S-A-N. And Arwin is on the call. Thank you so much for being here. And if you will unmute your microphone, you may proceed.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me clearly. I'm Arwin. I'm an 18-year-old high school senior in Forsyth County. And in December 2019, my family joined the vast and diverse group of people who moved to Southern Forsyth. Our area is currently undergoing a significant transformation in its demographics, and it's been a trend that has been tracked for quite a long time now. The longer I've been here, the more and more people like me have moved into our neighborhoods, schools, and communities. With that growth comes an increase in different perspectives, opinions, and ideas, which sometimes counter what this area believed even 1 decade ago when the last census was done. And this is not exclusive to Southern Forsyth, because when we know that Northern Fulton and Northern Gwinnett are going through the same exact thing right now. A transformation in demographics, which led to a new political trend and hence was a major factor in why the 2020 election and special election was as close as it was in Georgia. While these 3 areas are all grouped into one district, as I believe they should be, there's an obvious attempt to invalidate our opinions through these maps. By extending District 6 into Dawson, Cherokee, and Northern Forsyth, you've now taken 2 completely different areas in demographics, views, and issues and placed them into one district in an attempt to dilute the voices of one of the fastest growing areas in America in terms of population and diversity, and we do not support it whatsoever. There's been so much work done in our areas to get people who represent us in the United States Congress, and these maps would completely wipe out and ignore any of our opinions, ideas, and representation. By smothering our voices, you uphold the anti-democratic process of gerrymandering maps for power that you claim the maps represent all, as you entirely bypass the opinions of specific groups. This state, which was nearly 50-50 in the 2020 election, should not have an imbalance of Democratic and Republican legislators sent to Congress, but rather an even and accurate representation of what Georgia said they were about a year ago. I and my peers know the importance of redistricting and the impact it will have for the next 10 years, and we hope that the committee decides to draw these lines in an accurate manner, or it will show our discontent at the state legislature through the ballot. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I do not see any questions here for you, so we will move on. That was Mr. Hassan, correct? Thank you so much, Mr. Hassan. We will move on to Julian Fortuna. And I understand Julian is not on the call. Also, I received a message from my office to clarify, we did not receive red receipts. We have received delivery receipts, however. So if you still have not received the Zoom link, please do check your spam and junk folders. And if it's not there, contact our office and we will try to get you another sent out to another email that may be working. Okay, she's going to resend, she's actually resending it to everyone. So be on the lookout. Okay, next on the list is Lola Russell. Lola Russell. And I understand you are not on the Zoom link either. Abigail Lane is 19th on the list. And Ms. Lane, I understand that you have gotten up early with us on this Saturday morning. As soon as you unmute your microphone, you will be ready to speak.
Okay. Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm a resident of the current 6th district, and I feel there is no reason for major changes to this district. This is a clear gerrymandering attempt intended to disadvantage our incumbent and distance our relationship with someone who represents us very well. The current District 6 is a community of interest of suburban voters in the North Atlanta suburbs. We shop and go to restaurants in Dunwoody, Roswell, Alpharetta, and East Cobb. Our friends live in this area. The current district is a competitive district. By creating safe districts, our votes would be diluted. Our voices would no longer count. And as a woman, I want my vote to count. And as a Georgia resident and an American, I want all ethnicities and voters to have a choice. Their vote should count too. The Democrats' map, which wasn't even given the courtesy of a vote, mind you, demonstrated that it is not necessary to gerrymander this district in order to comply with population requirements. Furthermore, I believe there was a study with Princeton that was done with some better maps that could be drawn more fairly to represent all of our communities and people. Please vote no on this map. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lane. Next on the call, we have Donna Court. Ms. Court, I understand that you are on the call.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, honorable chairs and legislative committee. I thank you kindly for the courtesy of listening to us. I'm not going to boggle you with facts and figures. I know that everybody on this committee has been studying for many, many months. I know that you have been hearing what your constituents have to say, but my challenge to you today is to actually listen. I am an American. I am a Georgia resident since 1980. I do live in Congressional District 6 in Georgia House District number 43 and in Georgia Senate District number 32. Dr. Kay Kirkpatrick is my current senator. Shout out to her. She's done an excellent job keeping us informed. Ditto to everything that our colleagues have said. My challenge to you is to truly listen and to care. History has its eyes on us, to quote something that's been said on Broadway and across the United States. History has its eyes on us, and the only excuse I have heard not to listen to what we are saying is that, oh, the other party, when they in power, did this back in 2000. It's time to quit looking in the rearview mirror. It is time to look forward through the windshield. The rearview mirror is small for a reason. The front windshield is large for a reason. We need to move forward in grace and in humility and with the politeness that George Washington and our forefathers had. And I ask, I plead, I beg, please listen. I know that you have been hearing, but are you listening? And I thank you so kindly for your time. And please, we're not asking for anything hard. We're not asking for anything unfair. We're asking for fairness and equity. And your children's children will thank you for this. And I thank you so kindly.
Thank you very much, Ms. Court. Okay, and I am told now that we have sent out the Zoom link to everyone again. So for those of you who have been on the Zoom meeting with us today, you will be receiving the link again, so you can just disregard that and delete it. I have a question from Chairman Setzler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Court, I appreciate your words. I think your words were wise. I think your words were well received. We've had a lot of folks jumping on, throughout this process, angling for their partisan outcome they would prefer, and pointing fingers and those. I think your words were well received, and I appreciate the focus you asked us to consider. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Setzler. Okay, next on the list we have Ralph O'Connor. Mr. O'Connor, I understand that you have joined us this morning as well, so you can unmute your microphone and proceed.
Okay, thank you. I'm a resident of Fulton County in the current 5th Congressional District. My wife and I have been involved in nonpartisan voter registration and get out the vote efforts for several years. I agree with many of the comments previously. I'm not advocating for any partisan shift. I strongly disagree with the proposed congressional district map because there are few, if any, competitive districts. Several years ago, I heard former Attorney General Sam Olens tell a group that gerrymandering was one of the biggest threats to democracy because it forces candidates from all parties toward their extremes rather than toward each other. Georgia voters are best served when districts are competitive. In competitive districts, successful candidates will be those who can reach out to independents and voters of a different party, and when elected, will do the same thing in office. Obviously, non-competitive districts, people are elected because they refuse, in many cases, to cooperate with the opposite party. As a process issue, I have not been able to find digital copies of the maps. Maybe they're out there. There are free tools that allow us to play around with maps, so I would suggest that for any future efforts. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. O'Connor. And just for your benefit and the benefit of anyone else who maybe has not been to our website yet, those digital copies are available on the Joint Reapportionment Office's website. You can reach that by going to either house.ga.gov or senate.ga.gov. And there is also a banner, I'm told, at the top of every page. You can just click on that banner and it'll take you straight to those maps. Okay, next on the list, we have Mr. James Burge. And I understand you're not on the call with us this morning. Next is Anna Hall. And Ms. Hall, I believe you have joined us, so you can proceed.
Hello. Yeah, I'm actually always been a lifelong resident of Forsyth County. I'm only in Fulton now because I'm attending college at Georgia State. And as a lifelong resident in the North Forsyth area, I have learned about the civil rights movement many times, watched films, read books. We even took a tour of Atlanta to learn about the civil rights movement. With all this history heard, it did not once come to light to me the history of Forsyth County. My teachers failed to mention that Forsyth County residents drove out the entire Black population in 1912, or the lynching of Robert Edwards. I hadn't watched the Oprah special until just a year ago, a special filmed in 1987, where I saw people defending the all-white nature of Forsyth County. People I know who are still living there today. As this perception stood for a very long time, I never had many Black classmates, as the population is only 5.3% Black, according to the most recent census. So I say all this because the students of Forsyth County have not learned our history, and we have yet to acknowledge it. And by learning our history, we learn to correct it. And in this moment is the moment we do need to correct that. And drowning out minority voices is not the path towards this. Until I came to Atlanta, I was actually not familiar with the 6th district. My area of focus tended to be my own district, the 9th, and where my friends lived, the 7th. And clearly, this illogical setup is a result of gerrymandering, an attempt to get Lucy McBath, a Black Democrat, out of office. See, I'm from North Forsyth, but I went to school in the South Forsyth area for the IB program. And my friends, when they came to my area, they were surprised to see there were so many farms in Forsyth County. Clearly, if there's that big of a difference between the South and the North, there's an even bigger difference when it comes to counties like Fulton County and Cobb County. So this just not makes sense. And this is just an effort to drown out Black and minority voices again. The intentions are clear. So we need to stop drowning out this minority representation and move towards independent commissions and fair districts. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Terry Spencer. Terry Spencer, are you on the call? Right, I understand that you are not on the call either. Sandra Phillips is next. All right. I understand that Ms. Phillips is also not on the call. Next on the list is Mehar Naimani, and you are on the call. So thank you so much. If you will unmute your microphone, you can proceed.
Good morning, honorable members of the Congressional Reappointment Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. My name is Mehar Naimani, my pronouns are she, her, and I'm a senior from Fulton County, Georgia. I'm here today because I'm appalled after seeing the new Georgia proposed maps. Georgia has grown significantly over the last decades, but the proposed map does not represent Georgia's diverse and growing population and is targeted to discriminate against minority voices. It actively hurts one party, but more than that, it specifically hurts the voting of people of color. As a young Asian American female in Georgia, This is concerning. Don't we want all voices to be heard equally? Isn't that the foundation of democracy? Anything less than that would be a blatant act of voter suppression. As I and my fellow peers transition into a voting age, it is disheartening for people of color to be represented like this. It reduces our political efficacy and therefore will cause people to believe that their voice does not matter. Their voices do matter. I'm honored to be represented by Representative Lucy Macbeth, who has been fighting for equality and has represented diverse voices in my community, including older generations and my generation. It is appalling to see her seat be targeted like this and gerrymandered in attempts to gain party power. It all ties into the question of people versus power. The current proposed maps chose power over people. This map is nothing less than a power grab. So the real choice we should be making is of the people. The very foundation of this country is that the people hold the power. So I urge you to consider the idea of people before you consider power. Our beauty is in our diversity. So why are we suppressing it? I urge you to move towards better proposed maps that don't actively discriminate against minority voices. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, I understand that Sandra Phillips and Katie Gates have contacted my office to let me know that they do not want to speak. And Andrea Espinosa, I understand that you had submitted your email incorrectly and that we now have the Zoom link sent to the correct address. If you would like to speak now, or is she on the line, Andrea? Okay, all right, Andrea Espinosa, you can, oh, I'm sorry, I have a question from Chairman Setzler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say, appreciate the last speaker's contribution. She certainly has a right to her opinion. I would challenge the premise, I think, to there may be a sense in which members of the committee saying nothing is some sort of tacit acceptance of things that have been said. I just wanted to say I reject the premise. Appreciate her involvement, but I would just submit factually, with deepest respect, I just would say you're factually wrong. You think about the representation of other members. I represent a very diverse area, and I think I represent it with honor. I represent it with vigor. I represent all people in my area, no matter what their national origin, what their political preferences would be. And I think the suggestion that this map is a gerrymandered attack on the things that she described is just factually and as a premise wrong. I do appreciate your contribution. I appreciate your being part of the committee process. But I wholeheartedly support these maps in the spirit of representing all people very credibly. And I think if people are listening that might not be as familiar with some of the details here, I didn't want to accept the premise with which you spoke. Because I think the maps as proposed, the 2EX map, does a fantastic job of doing exactly what you said you were aspiring that they do. They represent the diverse communities across our state well, and I think the map as proposed does exactly that. I know we don't have time perhaps to debate county by county, block by block, but I just wanted to, again, appreciate your involvement, but I just flatly, and I think for many substantive reasons, we disagree with your premise.
Thank you, Chairman Setzler and Ms. Neimani. Okay, now we will move to Ms. Espinosa. If you will unmute your microphone, you can proceed.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Andrea Espinosa. My family of 5, 3 children, my partner and I have lived in downtown Powder Springs over the past years. As a citizen, I want to highlight 4 principles of democracy: citizens' participation, equality, transparency, and control of the abuse of power. One of my key roles to participate in democracy is to vote. It is my duty to express the unfairness of this proposed joint congressional map of Georgia. Most important, moving my family and I out of District 11 to District 14, we do not have a chance to elect a representative that represents our values. Through this map, I have now become an outlier. My voice as a voter is now overshadowed by an entire district that does not resemble any of the values I stand for. I am against Powder Springs and Austell becoming District 14. Next is equality. Recent elections results have shown that Georgia is evenly divided. Why is it that the redistricting is not at all fair? It does not give an equal voice to all Georgia and benefits a power grab and dilutes my voting power. Third principle I want to highlight is transparency. The redistricting process has been neither transparent nor responsive to the will of Georgians. We want a fair map. We want a map that truly represents our communities and values. Lastly, let's stop the control of abuse of power and let the people decide. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Espinosa. Next, we have Joanne Bonnet. Ms. Bonnet. Okay, I understand that you did not join us this morning. Next is Heidi Mcintyre, and you also did not join us. Lisa Spital, and you also did not join us. Okay, we're going to start over and recall the names of everyone who was not on at the time that we called, just to make sure we give you every opportunity to speak. First, we have Alex Ames. Okay, Alex Ames is not on the call. Next is Mira Seidel. Mira Seidel is not on the call. Next is Phyllis Preston. Phyllis Preston is not on the call. Next is Carolina Mock. Carolina Mock is not on the call. Next is Harold Kurtz. And Mr. Kurtz, you have joined us, so you may unmute your microphone and proceed.
Thank you very much. Members of the House Redistricting Committee, I appreciate the time to address you. I am currently president of the Jewish Community Relations Council. The Jewish Community Relations Council is interested in a fair process and a fair result. One of the guiding principles of redistricting is that of placing communities of interest together. The principle is meant to reflect the type of democracy that exists in the United States, that is a representative democracy or a republic. The percentage of minorities in Georgia has increased significantly since 2010, yet the likely result of the new congressional map is to reduce the representation of minorities. Again, the principle of placing communities of interest together is damaged by the new map. Although I'm reluctant to use the word racist, the obvious step of the proposed map of congressional districts is to eliminate Representative Lucy McBath from the congressional delegation. That is what the Voting Rights Act of 1965 would have prevented. When Supreme Court Justice Roberts wrote the decision gutting part of that act, he did it with the thought that the impetus of racism was no more a feature of the American landscape. Sadly, with actions such as this newly proposed map, his thought seems to have been misplaced. Placing Dawson and Forsyth counties in Representative McBath's district and taking out her DeKalb portion of the district runs counter to the principle of placing communities of interest together. As a small minority, the Jewish community will also see its interests hurt by the changes to District 6. While only 2% or less of the total population of Georgia is Jewish, the Jewish community is a substantial portion of District 6. The changes will dilute our already small ability to impact the composition of the congressional delegation. It will hurt our own chances of having representation that reflects our overall needs and desires. Our request is that the boundaries of District 6 be restored to the approximate lines that has been past 10 years, and to ensure that minority representation is reflected in the new map. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kurtz. All right, next on the list, who was not here earlier this morning, was Scotty Crow. Scotty Crow. Okay, you were not there either. Mike Levin. Mike Levin. All right, next is James Sams. James Sams. You also did not join us. Next is Julian Fortuna. Julian is not there either. Lola Russell. Lola Russell, also not present. All right, James Burge. James Burge, you also did not join us. Terry Spencer. Terry Spencer, not there. Joanne Bonnet. All right, Joanne Bonnet did not join us. Heidi Mcintyre, I understand that you are on a phone call line. Are you there, Ms. McIntyre? Ms. McIntyre? Okay, we have two telephone numbers who have dialed in who are not identified by a name or a photo. I suppose that is not you. Okay, Lisa Spital, Spital. All right, Ms. Spital is also not present. Okay, that concludes the portion of our public commentary. We are going to pause for just a moment and stand at ease for a 2 to 3 minute break while we ensure that we have just the committee members on the Zoom link for the vote. So let's just stand at ease for about 3 minutes. Thank you. Okay, we are returning, and I actually am going to take one more speaker. We called her name twice, and she was on the whole time. And we have removed those who did not remove themselves, other than this one member of the public, that is Heidi Mcintyre. Ms. Mcintyre, if you will unmute your microphone. Ms. Mcintyre, we see the phone number you provided is on the screen. Okay. All right. We have tried. There may be something wrong with your connection where you are. We did have other members participate from the telephone. So we are going to have to remove you from the Zoom call now so that we can proceed to the vote. And you are welcome to submit your written commentary through the portal. You will see this bill also probably come back in other committees and possibly on the floor on Monday. So please do submit your commentary. All right. To clarify, there has not been a vote on any congressional map this decade. This will be the first one. We have had 2 maps that have been proposed through the legislative process. We have a map that was drawn by the Democratic Caucus, which is House Bill 2EX, and was presented to this committee. And we had House Bill 2EX was the one from the majority party, the one that I authored. And then we had House Bill 5EX, which was the Democratic Caucus proposed map. The Senate also had legislation SB 2EX, which contained the same map as House Bill 2EX. And that is the House bill, that is the map that we have been discussing in this committee since Wednesday. Yesterday, the Senate passed Senate Bill 2EX on the Senate floor. And again, this is the same congressional map that we have been discussing. We've had 3 days of public commentary on that revised map. The original one had been posted September 27th. We also had Leader Beverly at the beginning of this process on Wednesday present the Democratic Caucus proposed map. At this time, I would like to, on behalf of Senator Kennedy, present Senate Bill 2EX to our committee for consideration. So at this point, do I have a motion? Okay. All right. I have a motion and a second, and it looks like we have some committee discussion here. Representative Alexander.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to amend Senate Bill 2EX by replacing it with Senate Bill 2EX LC number 471184S.
Okay, at this point, we are going to pass out the proposed map, and it was the substitute that is proposed by Representative Alexander. And for those of you who are not following the numbers there, this is actually the substance of House Bill 5EX, which is the Democratic Caucus proposed map that was proposed by Leader Beverly. Is that correct, Representative Alexander?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And Representative Scott?
No, I just want to second the motion.
You're seconding her motion. Okay. All right. So we have a motion and a second to amend Senate Bill 2EX as just previously described. All those in favor? Oh, yes. Chairman Setzler.
Okay, just parliamentary inquiry, Madam Chair. So the motion on the table was to amend the section, the 2EX that passed the Senate with a substitute version of that. So the posture we're in is a no vote on that motion rejects the motion, so that 2X as passed the Senate would stay in place instead of being replaced as the ladies moved. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So thank you for that clarification. So all those in favor of Representative Alexander's motion to amend Senate Bill 2EX as described, please raise your hands and keep them raised, those of you on the Zoom call, so that Molly can count your vote. So just keep them raised. Okay, thank you. You can put your hands down. All those opposed to Representative Alexander's motion, please raise your hands. Okay, and what is the result of the vote, the numbers? Okay. Okay. All right. So we have 4 in favor of the motion and 10 opposed to the motion. So the motion fails. So we are now back to the original bill that passed the Senate yesterday, which is Senate Bill 2EX. The LC number is 471166S. Okay. All those in favor of the passage of Senate Bill 2EX, please raise your hands and keep them raised while we count your votes. Okay. Okay, Representative Dollar is on the phone and I believe he is texting in his vote. He needs to know how to unmute his microphone on the telephone. This may be the problem that Heidi Mcintyre was having. Oh, there you go. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, great. I'd like to be recorded as a no vote for the previous, if that's possible. And I'd
Yes,
like
for
to be recorded
Representative
as
Alexander's motion to amend.
Yes, ma'am. And I'd like to be recorded as a yes vote for this vote.
Okay. All right. So do you have the vote recorded? Okay. And I'm sorry. Okay. And all of those opposed to Senate Bill 2EX, please raise your hands. Okay, and we have those votes. We have 3 opposed and 10 in favor of. So Senate Bill 2EX passes. And at this point, Senate Bill 2EX will come before the House Rules Committee in order to be considered for a vote on the House floor. It was 4 no. Okay. I'm sorry. So we had 4 votes no to Senate Bill 2EX, just for clarification of the record there. Thank you all so much. This was my first committee to chair. And I was told that this would be a difficult one, and it actually was. And to be honest, it was harder than I had expected. Difficult usually does not really deter me, and it wouldn't have deterred me, but I didn't expect it to be this difficult and this much work. So thank you all so much. We all as legislators have a job to do here, and then those in the minority party have a job to do as well. And those of us in the majority have a job. And I am very proud of the professionalism and the collegiality by which we accomplished that. And I feel that both parties have done an excellent job in representing the constituents who elected them. So I just want to really give my sincere thank yous to all of my colleagues. And I have another comment from Chairman Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to make the observation that you're a quick learner.
Thank you.
And you did an excellent job. You were open to everyone and you gave ample opportunity for comments and for input. So thank you very much.
Thank you. That means a lot, Chairman. Thank you. And I had Chairman Setzler.
To the lady's remarks as well, appreciate, to folks who are watching this, there's a lot of conversations that have been happening with legislators bringing things to you. I appreciate your openness, the 88 hours that you had, that you received members in to share their expectations. Many of, some of those I think there were people in the public who felt like they were well heard. There's certainly some folks who some are perhaps more happy than others, but I just the process for folks that engaged was a more open process than we've had in the past. Whether folks who are watching it online see all the communications and see all the hours you're meeting with people, I just wanted to thank you for that personally.
Thank you very much, Chairman Setzler. Thank you. And with that, we will stand adjourned.